Keanu Reeves walked onto the brightly lit stage with his usual quiet confidence. The moment he appeared, the audience erupted into thunderous applause, their cheers echoing through the massive auditorium. Everyone was excited to see him, but Keanu didn't wave or bask in the attention. He simply gave a small nod and a humble smile as if to say, "Thank you, but let's get to the real reason we're here." Across from him, sitting in a large high-back chair, was Elon Musk. The billionaire tech genius was known for his bold ideas, daring visions of the future, and strong opinions. He was always ready to debate, always prepared to challenge anyone who stood in his way. This wasn't going to be just a simple interview, it was a battle, a clash of two very different worlds. The stage was set. The cameras were rolling. Millions of people across the globe were watching live, waiting to see what would happen. Elon leaned forward slightly, a confident smirk playing on his lips. His fingers tapped lightly on the armrest of his chair as he prepared to speak. "Keanu," he began, his tone filled with amusement, "I have to say, I was surprised when you agreed to this conversation. You know, AI is the future. Hollywood, on the other hand, is just nostalgia." His voice carried a hint of condescension, like he was trying to prove a point before the debate had even begun. The audience chuckled, sensing that Elon was trying to bait Keanu into a reaction. Keanu, however, didn't react. He simply adjusted his blazer, keeping his expression calm and collected. After a brief pause, he looked directly at Elon and said, "You know, Elon, nostalgia has a way of reminding us what it means to be human. Can AI do that?" The room fell silent. Some members of the audience leaned forward in their seats, intrigued by Keanu's response. Musk's smirk faltered for just a moment, but he quickly recovered, waving his hand dismissively. "Oh, come on," he scoffed. "You can talk about feelings all you want, but facts are facts. AI can already generate scripts, create lifelike actors, and even compose music. In a few years, Hollywood won't need real people anymore. Machines don't get tired, they don't have egos, and they don't age." Musk let his words hang in the air for a moment before delivering his next line. His smirk widened as he added, "Keanu, you're what, 59 now? Do you really think people will still want to watch you over a perfectly optimized digital actor?" The audience let out a collective gasp. It was a low blow, but it was classic Musk. Bold, direct, and always pressing for control. The camera zoomed in on Keanu's face, waiting for some kind of reaction. But Keanu didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled, a small, knowing smile, as if he had seen this kind of argument many times before. He exhaled softly, leaning forward slightly to match Musk's posture. "Elon," he said, his voice smooth but firm, "have you ever watched a sunset?" Musk blinked. His brows furrowed in confusion. "A sunset?" he repeated, as if trying to figure out what that had to do with their debate. "Yeah," Keanu continued, his tone calm and thoughtful. "You can take a picture of it. You can create a perfect AI version of it. You can even simulate the colors and the glow. But does that mean you've truly experienced it?" The audience held their breath. Musk opened his mouth to respond but hesitated, caught off guard. Keanu leaned back, allowing his words to settle in the air. Then he added, "There's something about real presence, about being there in the moment, that no AI can replicate. And that's what makes art, stories, and humanity irreplaceable." The audience erupted into applause. Musk's smirk was gone now, replaced by something else, something harder to read. For the first time, he wasn't fully in control of the conversation. But he wasn't ready to give up. "All right, Keanu," he said, forcing a chuckle. "Nice analogy. But let's be real here. AI isn't just copying experiences, it's improving them. It can process data millions of times faster than humans. It can learn, adapt, and optimize. Do you know what that means? It means the movies of the future won't just be better than today's, they'll be scientifically perfected. AI will predict exactly what audiences want before they even know they want it. People won't miss human actors because the experience will be flawless." The cameras cut to the audience. Some people nodded in agreement. Others looked conflicted. This was no longer just a debate between two men. It was a battle between two visions of the future. Keanu's fingers tapped lightly on the armrest of his chair. He glanced at the audience, then back at Musk. "That's an interesting point," he said thoughtfully. "But let me ask you something. If AI is so perfect, why do people still go to live concerts instead of just streaming flawless AI-generated music? Why do people still go to Broadway instead of watching digital recreations? Why do people still crave real connection when technology can simulate almost anything?" The murmur in the crowd grew louder. Even Musk seemed slightly taken aback by the question. Before Musk could answer, Keanu turned to the audience and smiled. Let me ask all of you something, he said, his voice strong and clear. If you believe that human creativity, the raw, imperfect, beautiful way we create art, will always matter more than AI perfection, drop a 9 in the comments right now. The live stream chat exploded. People in the audience, phones in hand, started typing immediately. The energy in the room shifted. Musk's jaw tightened. He was losing them. But he wasn't done fighting yet. You're missing the bigger picture, he said, his voice sharper now. AI isn't just about entertainment. It's about efficiency. It's about progress. It's about survival. Humans are slow. They make mistakes. They get emotional. AI doesn't have those weaknesses. And in the end, it's not about what we want. It's about what we need. Keanu tilted his head slightly, considering Musk's words. Then, without breaking eye contact, he asked, "Do you think intelligence is measured by how well something replaces people? Or by how well it helps them?" The question hung in the air like a weight. Musk's fingers twitched slightly, a barely noticeable movement, but the cameras caught it. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Keanu continued, his voice steady. "The real question isn't whether AI can replace us," he said. "The real question is whether we should let it." The audience erupted again, their cheers shaking the auditorium. Musk's face was unreadable, but for the first time he had no quick comeback. No sarcastic retort. Just silence. Keanu turned back to the crowd, nodding as if to let them take in everything that had just happened. The applause grew louder. One thing had become clear. This debate wasn't just about AI. It was about the future of humanity. As the applause continued to echo through the auditorium, Elon Musk sat frozen, staring at Keanu Reeves as if trying to find a way to regain control of the conversation. His hands were clasped tightly together, his usual confidence replaced by something else, something unsettled. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the flicker of doubt that crossed Musk's face. He knew he couldn't afford to look weak. Not here. Not now. But Keanu had done something no one else had managed to do. He had shifted the power dynamic. What had started as a debate about AI in Hollywood had turned into something much bigger, something Musk hadn't anticipated. And in that moment, Keanu Reeves wasn't just an actor. He was the voice of something greater. He was the voice of humanity itself. Keanu leaned forward a little. His voice was soft but sharp. "You say AI can replace actors, but studios still choose real people. You say AI can write scripts, but the best stories come from human hands. What? Because being perfect doesn't make us connect. Mistakes do." He let that thought settle in, then added, "The greatest performances in history aren't great because they were perfect. They're great because they felt real." The energy in the room changed. People weren't just listening anymore, they were really thinking. Musk, on the other hand, looked annoyed. He wasn't used to being challenged like this. Keanu had put him in a tough spot he wasn't ready for. For the first time that night, Musk leaned forward, his voice sharp. "So, you're saying AI will never be better than humans? That's ridiculous. Look at chess, AI is better than every human player. Look at medicine, AI finds diseases faster than doctors. And you think Hollywood, a place built on fake stories, is the only thing AI can't take over?" Keanu didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the audience as if speaking to them. Then he turned back to Musk and said calmly, "I don't think AI will take over. I think it will show us what truly matters." Musk scoffed, shaking his head. "That sounds like something people say right before they become useless." Keanu chuckled and nodded. "Maybe you're right. Maybe AI will change everything. Maybe Hollywood will be nothing but computers guessing what people want to see. Maybe actors will be replaced. Maybe human creativity will disappear." Musk smirked, thinking he had won. But Keanu wasn't done. His tone changed just a little. "Let me ask you something, Elon." His eyes locked onto Musk's, and the energy in the room shifted again. "If AI is so smart, if it knows exactly what people want, then why do humans still surprise each other?" Musk's smirk faded. Keanu leaned in. "Why do people still fall in love when they least expect it? Why do they laugh at jokes they didn't see coming? Why do they cry at movies even when they already know how they end?" He paused, watching Musk's face change. "Because we are unpredictable. And that's something no AI will ever understand." The room went silent. No one moved. The audience was hanging on to every word. The live chat was going crazy. People were debating, arguing, but most were agreeing. Musk sat still, his lips pressed in a tight line. He knew he had lost this round. But he wasn't giving up yet. He took a deep breath and forced a smile, though it was clear it wasn't easy. "All right, Keanu," he said, his voice lighter, almost teasing. "That was poetic, I'll give you that. But let's talk about the real world. Hollywood isn't run by deep thoughts, it's run by money. And the truth is, AI is cheaper than humans. AI doesn't need breaks, doesn't ask for more money, doesn't get old. Studios don't care about unpredictability. They care about profits. So what happens when AI-made movies start making more money than human-made ones? What happens when people decide they don't need real actors anymore? Keanu's smile faded. He took a breath and nodded as if admitting that this was an important question. Then he looked at the audience. "That's not a question for me," he said. "That's a question for all of you." The camera moved across the crowd. People glanced at each other, some nodding, some unsure. Then Keanu turned back to Musk. Because at the end of the day, Elon, technology doesn't shape humanity. Humanity shapes technology. The room went still. Musk's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The billionaire, the man who always had an answer, suddenly had none. Keanu exhaled, looking thoughtful. "The real question," he added, "is not whether AI will replace us. It's whether we will let it." The audience erupted. The cheers were loud, shaking the room. Musk sat frozen, staring at Keanu, trying to process what just happened. The debate wasn't over. But something had changed. Musk wasn't in control anymore. And he knew it. The applause thundered, but something deeper was happening. Keanu Reeves hadn't just won against Elon Musk. He had changed the whole conversation. This wasn't just about AI anymore. It was about people. About what makes us special. And for the first time that night, Musk seemed to feel it. His grip tightened on the chair. His usual smirk was gone, replaced by something more serious. The cameras caught it, that small moment of tension in his eyes. The realization that he was losing the room. He wasn't just debating Keanu Reeves anymore. He was debating an idea. A belief. Something much bigger than himself. Musk took a deep breath and forced a chuckle. "All right, Keanu," he said, shaking his head like he was amused. But there was frustration in his voice. "You make a good argument, really. But let's get back to reality." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His voice dropped as if he was speaking just to Keanu. "You say AI can't replace humans. That it can't create like we do. But here's the thing, you don't need to replace something to make it useless." The audience murmured. They could feel it. Musk was changing his approach. He wasn't just using logic anymore. He was trying to make an impact. Trying to win through shock. He looked toward the giant screen behind them. With a flick of his hand, the display changed. On the screen, a perfect digital copy of Keanu Reeves appeared. The crowd gasped. There he was, identical in every way. The way he held his head. The tiny movements in his face. It was unreal. The digital Keanu raised a hand, blinked, and smiled, flawlessly. Musk gestured at it. "This is AI," he said proudly. "It doesn't need to replace you, Keanu. It just needs to be good enough that people stop caring." The room fell into an uneasy silence. People whispered. Some stared in shock. The AI Keanu was perfect. It was scary. It was the future. Musk leaned back, arms crossed, his smirk returning. "Tell me, Keanu," he said slowly, enjoying the moment, "do you really think in 10 years studios will still pay you millions when they can create this?" He pointed at the screen. In seconds, the room was heavy with tension. People watched Keanu waiting. Was this it? The moment Musk finally trapped him? But Keanu didn't even look at the screen. He didn't react to the AI at all. Instead, he did something no one expected. He smiled. Not a fake Hollywood smile. Not a polite smile to keep things calm. A real smile. A smile that almost looked sad. He turned to Musk. "You still don't get it, do you?" Musk's smirk twitched. "What's there to get?" Keanu finally glanced at the screen. His digital twin stood there, waiting, blinking perfectly. "You made a copy," Keanu said softly. "But tell me, Elon." His voice was calm, steady. "Where's the soul?" The words hit like a lightning bolt. The audience exhaled like they had been holding their breath. Musk's fingers twitched. His confidence wavered. He opened his mouth, then stopped. Keanu leaned in. "That thing on the screen?" He nodded toward his AI clone. "It looks like me. It moves like me. But it isn't me." He placed a hand on his chest. "Because I feel." And with that, the debate changed forever. Elon Musk sat on the stage, watching as Keanu Reeves spoke. The room was full of people, and they were all listening closely. Keanu pointed at the giant screen behind Musk. On it stood an AI version of himself. His perfect twin, but something about it felt empty. "You can copy how I look," Keanu said. "You can copy how I talk. But AI will never understand feelings. It won't know what it's like to lose someone, to hold on to memories, to be afraid of the future, or to hope. It will never be able to love. At first there was silence. Then someone at the back of the room clapped. The sound spread like a wave until the whole audience was cheering. Musk shifted in his chair. He looked uncomfortable. His fingers tapped lightly on his knee. He didn't like losing. And worse, he knew he was losing. His AI version of Keanu still stood behind him, looking perfect but lifeless. Keanu gestured toward it. "You can make 1,000 copies of me," he said. "They might look better, sound better, but they will never be me. And that is why they will never replace me." The crowd cheered louder. Musk let out a small, dry laugh and shook his head. He was trying to act like he was still in control. "So, Keanu," he said, forcing a smirk, "what's your plan? Are you going to fight AI? Try to stop progress? Pretend the world isn't changing?" Keanu's face stayed calm. "No," he said simply. "I'm going to guide it." The whole room froze. Even Musk's fake smile disappeared. "What do you mean?" Musk asked, his voice quick, almost nervous. Keanu took a deep breath. Then he dropped the big surprise. "I haven't been avoiding AI," he said. "I've been building it." Musk's eyes widened. The audience gasped. The online chat exploded. Keanu waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. "For the last 5 years I've been working on AI. Not to replace people but to help them. To protect art. To make sure creativity stays human. Because AI isn't the real problem, it's the people who decide how to use it." Musk sat still. For the first time that night he had no words. The crowd kept buzzing with excitement. The internet was going wild. The news would talk about this moment for weeks. Musk had spent the last hour trying to make Keanu look old and out of touch. But now Keanu had just revealed something huge. He wasn't against AI at all. He had been working on it in secret. But instead of trying to replace humans, his AI was made to help them. This wasn't just a good argument. It was checkmate. The cameras zoomed in on Musk's face. His smirk was gone. His jaw tightened. His fingers twitched as he rubbed the armrest of his chair. Musk wasn't just debating Keanu anymore. He was facing a real challenge. Musk let out a sharp breath through his nose. He forced another laugh and shook his head. "So, let me get this straight," he said, as if trying to make sense of it all. "Keanu Reeves, a Hollywood actor, has been secretly making AI?" He gestured to the audience as if expecting them to laugh with him. "And you expect people to believe that you, an actor, understand AI better than the experts at OpenAI, Google, and Tesla?" Musk shook his head. "Come on, Keanu. We both know what's really happening. This isn't about AI. This is about fear. You're scared. You see the future coming and you're trying to slow it down. Just like every other old actor who knows their time is running out." The crowd shifted. Some people nodded. Others looked uncomfortable. This was no longer just an argument. Musk was trying to embarrass Keanu. He wanted to make him look weak, like an old man clinging to the past. But Keanu? He didn't even blink. Instead, he sighed, almost as if he felt sorry for Musk. He looked at him, not with anger, but with pity. "You know what's funny, Elon?" Keanu said, his voice calm. Musk smirked. "Do you?" Keanu nodded. "Yeah," he said. "I actually agree with you." Musk's smirk grew. "Oh, you do?" Keanu continued. "You're right. This isn't just about AI. It's about something deeper." Musk leaned back slightly, looking satisfied. But then Keanu added, "But you're wrong about the fear." He leaned forward, locking eyes with Musk. "You think I'm afraid of the future," Keanu said. He paused. "But tell me, Elon, why do you always sound like a man who's afraid of the present?" The whole room went silent. Musk blinked as if those words had hit him deep. The audience gasped, not because Keanu had shouted or said anything dramatic, but because of how sharp his words were. And Keanu wasn't finished. "You talk about the future like it's an unstoppable wave," he said. "Like we have no choice but to be swept away by it. Like we are powerless." He gestured to the audience, to the millions watching online. "But people aren't just passengers on this ride," he continued. "We get to decide what kind of future we build. AI isn't fate. It's just a tool. And the real question isn't what AI can do, it's who controls it." The crowd murmured in agreement. Musk shifted in his chair. His fingers tapped against the table. He was trying to regain his balance. "All right," Musk said, taking a deep breath. "I'll play along. You say AI is just a tool, that humans control it. Fine. But what happens when the people in charge decide they don't need other people anymore?" His voice grew sharper. "What happens when companies realize they don't need actors? Musicians? Writers? He pointed at Keanu. Or even engineers? Keanu nodded. He had been waiting for this moment. That's exactly why I'm involved, he said. Because we're at a crossroads right now. We can either build AI that replaces us, or AI that helps us. And I know which one I choose. The crowd roared in applause. Musk's jaw tightened. He hadn't expected that answer. He had thought Keanu would argue against AI, that he would sound like just another Hollywood star afraid of the future. But Keanu had done something Musk wasn't ready for. He had embraced the future, on his own terms. The cameras zoomed in on Musk's face. He was losing. Keanu kept speaking, his voice steady and strong. The real danger isn't AI itself, he said. The real danger is who controls it. And right now, it's in the hands of people who only see it as a way to replace humans. He looked Musk in the eyes. And that's a problem. Because the future shouldn't be decided by just one man. The room tensed. The power had shifted. Musk inhaled sharply. Then he chuckled, but it sounded forced. So what now? He asked, trying to sound confident. Are you going to start your own AI company? Maybe call it Neo AI. Keanu smiled. I don't need to, he said. I already have. Silence. Then, absolute chaos. The audience screamed. The online chat exploded. Musk froze. His eyes narrowed. Keanu just smiled. You've been building AI to replace people, he said. I've been building AI to help them. Musk's face twitched. That's impossible, he said quickly, his voice lower now. Keanu shrugged. Maybe you were too busy trying to replace the world, he said, to notice the ones trying to save it. The room went wild. For the first time ever, Elon Musk had been outplayed. All right, Keanu, Elon said, tilting his head. You say a lot of deep, poetic things, and yeah, you're good at making people feel stuff. But let's talk about something real, numbers. He tapped his fingers on the table to make his point. How much money have you spent on AI? This was a tricky question. If Keanu said a small number, Elon could say he wasn't serious. If Keanu said a big number, Elon could make him look like just another rich guy trying to control the world with technology. But Keanu? He just smiled. The right amount. The audience laughed. Elon's smile twitched. He didn't expect that answer. Keanu leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. That's the thing, Elon, he said, calm as ever. You think everything is about money, about control? He shook his head. But some things, real things, you can't put a price on. Elon scoffed, waving a hand. Oh, come on. That sounds nice, but be honest. You think you can beat me? I run companies that make the best AI, the best robots, the best everything. Keanu cut in, still smiling. And yet, here you are, sitting across from me trying to prove it. The audience cheered. Elon froze just for a second, but the cameras caught it. He had no comeback. Keanu tilted his head slightly. Tell me, Elon, he said smoothly, if I don't matter, why do I have your attention? Boom. Elon exhaled sharply, shaking his head. He had made a mistake. He thought Keanu would stumble, that he'd just talk about dreamy ideas and eventually lose. But Keanu wasn't losing. He was winning. And Elon knew it. So Elon changed his plan. If words wouldn't work, he would put on a show. Fine, Elon said, forcing a grin. You want to talk about what matters? Let's prove it right now. He snapped his fingers. The giant screen behind them changed. Now, instead of just a digital version of Keanu's face, it was an entire AI-made short film. The audience gasped. Elon leaned back, arms crossed, as the screen lit up. It looked just like a real movie, action-packed, just like John Wick. But it was all fake. It wasn't really Keanu. The AI Keanu on the screen looked perfect. He moved like a real person. His voice sounded real. His expressions were just right. As the scene played, Elon spoke. This, he said, pointing to the screen, was made in less than 24 hours. No actors. No stunt doubles. No expensive sets. Just AI. He turned to Keanu with a smirk. Tell me, how do you compete with that? For the first time all night, Keanu was silent. He just watched the screen where his AI self was dodging bullets, giving speeches, and fighting bad guys with perfect moves. It was amazing. It was scary. And Elon knew it. The short film ended. The room went quiet. Elon spread his hands, smirking again. So, Keanu, he said, tilting his head, do you still think people will care if it's really you up there? The audience held their breath. Keanu sat still for a moment. Then slowly he stood up and smiled. Let me ask you something, Elon, he said, his voice steady. Elon raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. Keanu pointed at the screen. Do you think anyone in this room will remember that scene tomorrow? The audience gasped. Elon blinked. What? Keanu kept his eyes on him. I mean it. Will anyone remember a single line that AI version of me just said? A single moment that moved them? A single thing that felt real? Elon opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Because he knew the answer. No one was going to remember it. It was impressive. It was exciting. But it was empty. Keanu took a slow step forward. His voice lowered just enough to make everyone lean in. That's the difference, Elon, he said. You keep trying to replace people. But people aren't just images. We're not just sound. We're not just movement. He exhaled. We're connection. He turned to the audience. Movies don't make history because they're perfect. They make history because people feel them. The audience erupted in applause. Keanu nodded, then looked back at Elon. AI is a tool. A powerful one. But the moment you think it can replace meaning, he shook his head, is the moment you lose the soul of everything that matters. Elon sat stiffly in his chair. His fingers gripped the armrest. For the first time all night he looked small. Keanu turned back to the audience. So, here's my question for all of you, he said, his voice ringing through the room. Would you rather watch a movie that's flawless, or one that makes you feel something real? The chat exploded. Elon's face stayed blank. Keanu sat back down, relaxed as ever. And just like that, the power had shifted. The audience wasn't just watching anymore. They cared. The cheers hadn't even fully died down, but Keanu's words still hung in the air. Elon Musk, the billionaire who was always in control, now sat stiffly in his chair, his fingers tapping against the armrest. His jaw was tight. He had never lost control of a conversation before. But this was different. This wasn't just a debate about AI anymore. This was about legacy. Keanu had changed the whole conversation. Instead of just talking about technology, he made it about something bigger. Something about what makes people human. And Elon, smart as he was, powerful as he was, had no answer for that. But he wasn't done fighting. Elon took a sharp breath, forcing a smirk. He shook his head like he was brushing it off. All right, Keanu, he said, his voice sharp. That was cute. Really. But let's stop pretending emotions pay the bills. He leaned forward, locking eyes with Keanu. Let's talk numbers. AI-made movies are already getting millions of views. Studios are starting to invest in AI-only films. What? Because people want them. And you can talk about real feelings all you want. But at the end of the day, he spread his hands. Money talks. A few people in the audience murmured in agreement. Keanu didn't react. He just watched Elon waiting. Elon saw that as an opening. You say AI can't replace meaning, he continued. But let me tell you what people really want. He leaned in. They want entertainment. Fast, endless, on demand. They don't want some long, slow, artistic vision. They don't want a movie that takes years to make. He gestured toward Keanu. You really think Gen Z, kids raised on TikTok, short videos, and AI-enhanced content, care about meaning? He smirked. Or do they just want something new, something fast, something optimized? The audience stirred. Elon was pushing hard now. He was betting that no matter how much people liked good art, in the end they cared more about convenience. Keanu let out a small breath from his nose, then laughed, a deep, real laugh. Elon Musk's confident smile twitched just a little. Keanu shook his head, still smiling. His laugh made the whole room feel a little lighter. That's funny, Keanu said. Because I remember when people thought movies would replace books. Musk blinked. Keanu kept going. I remember when people thought TV would replace movies. When streaming would replace theaters. When ebooks would replace paper books. He waved a hand at the crowd. And yet here we are. Books are still here. Theaters are still here. Movies are still here. He tilted his head, looking at Musk. Why do you think that is? Musk scoffed, rolling his eyes. Because old people are stuck in the past, he said. They hold on to old things until they have no choice but to move on. Keanu smiled. He had him now. No, he said, his voice quiet but strong. It's because technology doesn't erase what matters. It just makes us fight harder to keep it. The audience cheered loudly. Musk took a sharp breath, his smile tightening. Keanu wasn't just arguing against AI. He was changing the whole conversation. Keanu turned to Musk. Go ahead, he said, waving a hand at him. Make your AI-generated movies. Fill the internet with computer-made content. Flood every platform with auto-created stories. His eyes locked onto Musk's. But do you know what will happen in the end? Musk didn't answer. So Keanu did. People are going to get tired of it. The room went silent. Keanu leaned forward, his voice steady. People will always want what feels real. You can distract them for a while, sure. You can flood their screens, overwhelm their choices, drown them in endless computer-made content. But at some point, he opened his hands, they'll start craving something different, something made by real people. A wave of understanding spread through the crowd. Musk's fingers curled slightly against his chair. He could feel it, he was losing them. Desperate now, he pushed back. So what's your plan, Keanu? Musk asked sharply. Are you going to make movies by hand? Convince studios to stop using AI and give up their profits? He leaned in, his eyes narrowing. Or are you just going to sit there and hope people suddenly care about art again? Keanu exhaled, his face calm. Then he looked Musk straight in the eye. My plan? He repeated. Pause. Then. I already started. The audience gasped. Musk froze. Keanu didn't blink. I already started, he said again, his voice steady. While you were trying to replace people, I was giving them back their power. While you were making AI that creates content, I was making AI that protects creativity. Musk's face changed. Because now he knew Keanu wasn't bluffing. The audience leaned forward, hanging on to every word. Musk forced a smirk, but his voice wasn't as strong. What are you saying, Keanu? Keanu sat back in his chair, completely at ease. I'm saying, he said smoothly, that for the last 5 years I've been investing in the future of entertainment. Not one that replaces humans, but one that gives them control. Musk swallowed. Keanu kept going. Musicians, writers, actors, artists, all the people your AI is trying to erase. He shook his head. I'm giving them the tools to fight back. The crowd exploded with cheers. Musk sat stiffly in his seat. Keanu's words weren't just a debate anymore. They were a challenge. Musk took a deep breath, trying to hide his frustration. He had lost the crowd. He had lost control of the conversation. And worst of all, he had underestimated the wrong man. Keanu turned to the audience. You've heard what Elon thinks, he said. Now I want to hear from you. The crowd leaned in. If you believe the future should belong to creators, not corporations. If you believe AI should help people, not replace them. Keanu paused, then said, drop a 10 in the comments. Right now. Phones lit up across the room. The live chat exploded. Musk sat in silence. Because at that moment, it wasn't his future anymore. It was Keanu's. The energy in the room was electric. Keanu Reeves had just done the impossible that he had made Elon Musk, the man who always seemed untouchable, sit in complete silence. The billionaire sat there, hands folded, face blank. But the cameras caught everything, the tightness in his jaw, the way his fingers twitched, the sharp exhale through his nose that he could feel it slipping away. The live chat was still going wild. The flood of tens kept pouring in, and now #Keanu owns the future was trending. People weren't just watching anymore, they were taking sides. And for the first time in years, Musk was losing. He had to do something. He had to take back control. So he did what he always did, he went for the attack. Musk let out a dry chuckle, shaking his head like he was amused. He leaned back in his chair, crossing one leg over the other, his fingers touching together. That's a nice story, Keanu, he said smoothly, his voice calm but sharp. Really it is. But let's talk about something real. Keanu tilted his head, waiting. Musk smirked. You see, people love an underdog story, Musk said, gesturing at the crowd. They love the idea that one man, one actor, can stand up to a machine. He exhaled, but that's just a fantasy. The room fell quiet. Musk leaned forward, pressing his advantage. History doesn't favor the past, Keanu, he said. It favors progress. It favors those who adapt. His smirk grew. You think people will keep choosing real movies over AI movies? He scoffed. They won't. They'll adapt. Just like they adapted to streaming instead of DVDs. Just like they adapted to electric cars instead of gas. Just like they'll adapt to a world where they don't need actors anymore. The room was tense now. Keanu saw it. A few people in the audience glanced at each other. Some crossed their arms, thinking. Musk grinned. He had found a weak spot. And now he was going to break it open. Let me ask you something, Keanu, Musk continued, his voice dripping with confidence. You've spent your life playing heroes, men who stand against impossible odds. He gestured at Keanu, but this isn't a movie. He leaned in, this is real life. His voice was cold, and in real life? His eyes narrowed, the machine always wins. The room was silent, the camera zoomed in on Keanu's face, and then, Keanu smiled, not a smirk, not a nervous grin. A slow, knowing, fearless smile. Musk's confidence wavered. Keanu let out a small breath that he shook his head slightly. Then, in a voice so calm it almost sounded amused, he said, "You know, Elon, I think you just proved my point." Musk blinked. "What?" Keanu leaned forward now, mirroring Musk's posture. But his face wasn't cold. It was peaceful. "You keep talking about efficiency," Keanu said. "About how the machine always wins." He gestured toward Musk. "But tell me something, who's sitting across from me right now?" Musk frowned slightly, confused. "What?" Keanu smiled again. "If AI is so great, if technology is so powerful, then why am I debating you?" The audience gasped. Keanu kept going. "You could have built a super smart AI to argue for you. You could have programmed a chatbot to outthink me in every way." He tilted his head. "But you didn't." His voice was smooth. "You chose to be here. A real human. Having a real conversation." The crowd erupted. Musk's smirk disappeared. Keanu shrugged lightly. "No matter how much you believe in machines," he leaned in, "people don't connect with computers." He smiled. "They connect with people." The crowd lost it. Musk had no words. Keanu had taken Musk's own argument and crushed it. The cameras zoomed in as the billionaire took a deep breath through his nose. His fingers tapped lightly on the table. He had spent years arguing, debating, and winning. But this was different. Because Keanu Reeves had just done something unbelievable. He had made Elon Musk look small. And worse, he had done it so easily. The audience was still cheering, but everything had changed. The energy in the room had shifted. Everyone could feel it. The people were now on Keanu's side. Musk needed to do something, fast. He needed to take back control. He needed to remind everyone that he was the genius, he was the future. Then he saw it. A way out. Musk exhaled, shaking his head, forcing a small laugh. He waved his hand in the air as if this whole thing wasn't a big deal. "All right," he said, his voice strong again. "You made your point, Keanu. But let's stop pretending you're some great thinker." He turned to the audience, his smirk returning. "Keanu Reeves isn't a scientist. He's not an engineer. He's just a movie star." The audience grew a little quieter. They could tell Musk was making his last big move. "So tell me, Keanu," Musk said, tilting his head, "why do you think you know anything about the future of AI? About technology?" He spread his hands. "What makes you think you have the right to argue with me?" The room tensed. Keanu just sat there, calm, unbothered. Then, after a pause, he exhaled softly. And he looked Musk directly in the eye. "Elon," he said. He waited. Then, in a voice steady and sure, he continued, "I don't need to be an engineer to understand the future." He leaned forward just a little. "I just need to be human." Boom. The crowd erupted. The cheers filled the entire room. Musk's smirk vanished. And for the first time all night, he looked like a man who had lost. The noise was huge. The internet was already on fire. People were recording, tweeting, posting. And they all agreed, Keanu had humbled Elon Musk. The cameras zoomed in on Musk's face. His jaw was tight. His fingers tapped against the table. He knew what had just happened. And everyone else did too. The longer the silence stretched, the more undeniable it became. Keanu had won. But Musk wasn't done. Not yet. He took a slow breath and forced a smirk. It didn't quite reach his eyes, but he had to turn this around. "All right," he finally said, shaking his head as if shaking off the loss. His voice was light, almost amused. But there was something sharp underneath it. "That was a nice speech, Keanu. Really. You made the people feel something." He sat back, exhaling, resetting. "And you're right," he continued. "Humans connect with other humans. I won't argue with that." Then his voice hardened. "But here's the thing." The audience got quieter. Musk felt the shift. He wasn't out of the game yet. "People don't just connect with other people," he said, his words slow and careful. "They connect with what makes life easier. And in the end, that's what AI is going to do." The crowd murmured. Musk could feel it now. The shift. The tiny crack in their confidence. "You can talk all day about meaning, about art, about the human touch," Musk went on, his voice smooth and controlled. "But you know what else is human, Keanu?" He let the question hang in the air. Convenience, efficiency, progress. He saw it now. In the audience's eyes. The flicker of doubt. Not in Keanu. In themselves. And that was what Musk needed. Musk spread his hands. "Sure, tonight people feel inspired. They feel something real. But what happens tomorrow when they go home and see an AI-generated movie that's faster, cheaper, and just as entertaining? What happens when they get used to it?" He leaned forward slightly, his smirk growing. You think they'll still care about meaning, Musk said, when they don't even notice the difference anymore? Silence. Musk had done it. He had made them afraid, that he had made them doubt themselves, that he had given them something terrifying to think about. And now he just had to push. Musk exhaled, shaking his head slightly, like he wasn't just talking to Keanu, but to everyone watching. The truth is, he said, voice steady, in 100 years, no one will remember this conversation. The crowd gasped. They won't remember this debate, Musk said. Then he turned to Keanu. They won't remember you. Silence.it was a low blow. And Musk meant it. Because this wasn't just about winning. This was about erasing Keanu's impact altogether. Musk leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. And if you think I'm wrong, he said, raising an eyebrow, just ask yourself this. How many of you remember the last person who tried to stop progress? The room was dead silent. The audience wasn't sure what to believe anymore, and Musk was counting on it. The cameras panned to Keanu. Everyone was waiting. Then Keanu did something no one expected. That he laughed. Not a chuckle, that a real, full-bodied laugh. Musk's smirk faltered. What's so funny? He asked. Keanu wiped his mouth, still smiling. Because you just made the exact same mistake that every unstoppable man in history has made. Musk frowned slightly. And what's that? Keanu's smile didn't fade. You think you're the future. The audience held their breath. But you're just the past. Boom. Musk froze. Keanu leaned in, his voice calm, unshaken. You think people will forget me? He chuckled again. Elon, people don't remember history because of the machines that were built. He tilted his head. They remember the people who stood against them. The crowd exploded. Musk's fingers curled against the table. His confidence was gone. Keanu wasn't debating anymore. He was finishing this. The people who changed history, Keanu continued, weren't the ones who built the machines. He shook his head. They were the ones who refused to be controlled by them. Another massive roar from the crowd. Musk sat completely still, jaw tight, fingers clenched. Keanu turned to the audience. His eyes swept across the room. You want to know why people won't forget me? He asked. He shook his head. Because people don't forget the ones who remind them they have a choice. The crowd erupted. Musk had lost. Keanu took a deep breath and turned to the audience. His voice was steady, clear. This isn't just about AI, he said. This is about who gets to decide the future. He pointed straight at Musk. There are people, powerful people, who want you to believe that you don't have a choice. That progress is inevitable. He shook his head. But that's a lie. The crowd went wild. Keanu leaned forward slightly. The future, he said, isn't built by machines. He smiled. It's built by us. If you enjoyed this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more exciting stories filled with adventure, mystery, and unforgettable moments. Your support means the world. It keeps these stories coming and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.